Metro Center, Route 14, Whites Creek, Route 21, University Connector, Route 22, the Bordeaux route, Route 23, Dickerson Road, Route 41, the Golden Valley route, and Route 42, St. Cecilia and Cumberland. Those are the existing routes. The improvements scheduled for District 2 include improved frequency and expansion of service on routes 9, 14, 22, and 42. Rapid bus on Bordeaux and Dickerson routes, that's 22B and 23B. Crosstown Route 11 on Trinity Lane, that is, you'll be able to go from Bordeaux to downtown, or Bordeaux to the airport even, without ever going downtown, on using the Route 11 Trinity Lane crosstown availability. The Transit Center at Ed Temple Boulevard and Clarksville Pike, and also on Dickerson and Briley Parkway will be constructed. And access ride and mobility on demand also will be enhanced, including same-day service availability and real-time information and first mile, last mile integrated service.
Excuse me.
By public funding, public transportation is not intended to be profitable. It's affordable, it's consistent, and transit-dependent and choice riders influence how this system is utilized and how it actually works for your benefit. For-profit transit, of course, is a conflict of Wall Street, limited for profit. Those who manufacture and sell automobiles clearly are champions of this. Charter buses, Uber, Lyft, taxis, airlines. The price changes are not fixed, but they fluctuate depending upon the demands of the marketplace. The coverage is selected. That is, you may have limousine service in one area of the county and no service in another. That's private. That's the private transit system. One of the things that we would also like to share with you, contrary to popular belief, current U.S. cities with light rail, Baltimore, Boston, Buffalo, Charlotte, Cleveland, Dallas, Denver, Houston,
Morning, Rick.
LA, Minneapolis, Newark, Phoenix, St. Louis, Sacramento, Salt Lake City, San Jose, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle, Portland, Pittsburgh, Virginia Beach. And you'll notice that several of these communities are in the South, contrary to popular notion. Cities that are actually expanding their light rail offerings include, but are not limited to, Atlanta, Austin, Charlotte, Dallas, those are the cities in the South alone. You can add to those cities Baltimore, Boston, Cleveland, Denver, the entire state of New Jersey, Los Angeles, Minneapolis, Newark, Phoenix, St. Louis, Sacramento, Salt Lake City, San Jose, San Diego, Seattle, Portland, and Pittsburgh.
Let me see.
These are just a few things to chew on. What is our question and answer offerings, Mr. Chairman?
Theory. All of the evidence over 40 years of very good statistic work support the second theory. It is so well established, it's called the iron law of traffic. And you have experienced it yourself. You have traveled to cities that have much larger transit programs than we have here. Atlanta, Chicago, Washington, D.C. Their roadways are characterized by heavy levels of congestion. So they've spent billions, tens of billions of dollars on transit, and their roadways are no less congested as a consequence of it. So your practical experience reinforces what the statistical evidence says. Transit will not reduce traffic congestion. It's hard for, it's not what the man on the street usually thinks, so this is why I'm trying to explain this carefully. So it's important to understand that what you're buying is transit for people who want to use transit. That's what this is about. Now the second fact that I want to portray to you is that transit ridership is declining in Nashville, and it's declining in most other cities in the United States. And here in Nashville, this is surprising because our economy is growing rapidly and employment levels are growing significantly here. And we have been putting more dollars into transit. We have more hours of buses operating on our streets, and nevertheless, over the last 5 years, our transit ridership is down by 6%. Atlanta's ridership is down 20%. Charlotte, Austin, and Los Angeles down 20%. These are not trivial changes. These are systematic changes. And I believe the reason is because of gentrification. That is, our downtown areas are attracting many high-income people. And you can see along Main Street and other areas of town, they're building mid-rise housing, 6- and 8-story buildings where the condominiums start at $300,000. And we have called those transit-oriented development. Maybe you've heard that term, transit-oriented development. Well, it turns out that people who are buying those $300,000 plus condos, they don't use transit so much. And so our transit ridership is declining because our city is changing. It reflects what Nashville is like today. Now the third point I want to make, that the railroads that are proposed here are about half of the length of the bus rapid transit lines on those same routes that we have today. So I'll talk specifically about the Gallatin Road Railroad. So today we have a limited stop bus service and bus rapid transit from Rivergate all the way into Music City Central. The railroad will go from Music City Central just to Briley Parkway, only halfway to Rivergate. So that means that people who are riding the bus from Rivergate and from Madison will get to the old Kmart, right, Briley Parkway, and they'll have to transfer to the train. The rule of thumb is that the transit will lose 15% of riders when you build in a transfer, because the transfer takes time and is inconvenient. So right out of and the bus rapid transit travels at about the same speed that the railroad will travel. The railroad's scheduled speed is 19 miles per hour. 19 miles per hour, because it will stop every 3/4 of a mile. So we take the existing bus rapid transit, which is a pretty good service, and cut it in half and replace half of it with a train and require a transfer. We're going to lose riders. Okay. Now I've heard transit advocates argue that it'll be convenient to travel from Madison by train right out to the airport. So the time on the train, getting on the train at Briley Parkway and going downtown is a 21-minute ride. And then it's going to be 5 minutes through the 1-mile tunnel, and then it's 26 minutes out to the airport. Those of you who are doing the addition can count up to 52 minutes to ride the train from Briley Parkway at Gallatin Road through downtown and out to the airport. It's a 15-minute car ride. So these railroads are going to have difficulty attracting significant numbers of riders because the bus services are actually pretty good. And we can do crosstown buses. We can do a lot with buses, as Mr. Searcy has discussed. So let me turn to where the exciting innovations are occurring in transportation. And these are with the on-demand services. Uber and Lyft are have cars. There's a company called Via, which operates in a number of cities, including Arlington, Texas, which is an on-demand bus service. You use your phone or make a call, and the bus will come to you and pick you up. In a low-density area, it's much less expensive to use on-demand services than to have buses running empty through the neighborhood every 15 minutes. So today, we're spending about $1 a mile per passenger for our bus service, just for the driver, the fuel, and maintenance. If you add overhead and the capital costs, you get up to about $1.60 a mile for today's bus service. Our MTA is collecting about 20 cents a mile in fares. So as a public, we're putting in on the order of $1.40 a mile as public support for the transit program. Now here's the pitch. If we can find a less expensive way to move people around, our public dollars can go farther. In the city of Arlington, Texas, the city is putting in half of the cost of the on-demand bus service. So we can do that here, and by having a lower cost service per mile, we can do better. And Uber and Lyft today cost about $2.50 a mile for an individual car. You have the car. But in December, they began offering a pooled service. With the pooled service, you request a pooled service, it's about a third off of the standard price if you agree to have a little longer trip, pick somebody else up if there's somebody who wants to go. So that's dropping the price down from $2.50, it's going down a mile, down to something like $1.50, something like that. Then in San Francisco, Uber has introduced Express Pool, where if you choose that, you may be invited to walk a block or two to a pickup point, and at your destination, walk a block or two to your endpoint, and that's approaching a 60% discount. So you're now well under $1 a mile, and this is paying for the driver, the car, the fuel, the maintenance, and the system overhead, the full package. And you don't have to park. Now the other innovation that is occurring are autonomously or self-driven cars. And these are, Waymo is a division of the Google, the search company, and they have them in operation in Phoenix today. They began on March 13th. They're not yet charging people, so by the end of the year, they will have a charging, on-demand, charge, driverless car. That drops the price from $2.50 a mile down to $1.50 a mile. And as it expands, it'll go down to $1 a mile. So take a self-driven car and running at $1 a mile, and then put it in the pooled service, and you're down to 50 cents a mile. That's in comparison to the $1.50 a mile for our bus today. But what do the trains do? If you're putting $4 billion into the trains, you're driving up the capital costs of the train program and the operating cost program up in the vicinity of $10 a mile per passenger. These are real billions of dollars. The money adds up a lot. So I want you to think carefully about our public needs, our roads, our schools, our safety. How many dollars do we want to put into transit when we can improve our bus service for a lot less, and we have new technologies coming which are going to allow us to do even better with our public dollars, which we can use to support lower income people, senior citizens, increase the mobility because the car will pick you up at your door, unlike today's bus service. So I will stop there, and I appreciate your attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Before we move on to questions and answers, we have Chairman Elrod, who's chairman of the Metro Council's Public Works Committee, and is also the sponsor of this transit program, this actual sponsor of the legislation. Again, we have District 1, 2, and 3, we have the most amazing speakers.
Hello, my name is Jeremy Elrod. I'm the District 26 Metro Councilman, which is South Nashville, Creve Hall, Colorado Hall, Peregrine Mills. It's the east of I-65, Harding, and Nolensville Road, that area. But I grew up in Pleasant View, Tennessee, graduated from Cheatham County High School. My first job actually was the subway at the Jolton exit up here. Worked there for a few months in the summer of late 90s, I forget when. I am a strong supporter of the transit plan, and for a few reasons. And let me just say that ridership is up nationally for transit. It's up 35% nationally over the past 25 years. Light rail in particular is up 19%. So people are using transit. And so that's why we need something in Nashville. We're not close to our peer cities that you had up here, that you saw of the cities that have light rail, that are expanding in light rail, particularly the ones here in the south. And the plan that is before you was put through a 5-year period between Nashville Next and In Motion, with dozens of community meetings across the city, public hearings, community inputs in the thousands through those community meetings, online surveys, and that kind of thing. This is the plan that Nashville put together, and that's what is on the ballot. And one of the things that, for my district, part of it is very dense along Knowlesville Road. Other parts of it isn't, such as Caldwell and Creve Hall, is the way that's going to manage growth. We are going to be growing as a city, no matter what, because today is our best day of traffic that we will have. Tomorrow will get worse, and the day after that will get worse, and so on and so forth. That no matter what, even with this plan or any plan, traffic will continue to get worse because we will be growing as a city. And what this plan will do is to help that congestion, is to give people more options. And if there is better bus service, light rail service along the corridors, it will incentivize growth, and people that are moving to the city, millennials that want to use transit, that will be attracted to the light rail service, will go to those areas and incentivize growth in those places. And that way it will preserve places like White's Creek, like Jolton. Because if you can get everywhere by a car, you can live anywhere. But if you want to live by light rail, if you want to live by a rapid bus route, there's only so many places in the city. Now, 79% of the residents under this plan will be within a half mile of a transit route. 86% of the national jobs will be within half a mile of a bus route. And that's folks that live out in this, that live away from downtown, that live in downtown, or that work in downtown, work away from downtown. They'll be able to get around the city, and have a lot more options as they do. And the reason that I'm for this is we are growing as a city. This is not just a plan for the next 5 years or 10 years. The next 6 months, 18 months, 24 months under this plan, we're going to see greatly increased bus service. That means more frequent stops, every 15 minutes, longer routes that start at 5:15 in the morning, end at 1:15 at night. That gives people the certainty that they will be able to catch the bus. The closest bus stop to my house, the bus comes every 40 minutes. If I miss it, then that's another 40 minutes I've got to wait. That's not a certainty that I can count on. But if you can count on your bus being there, whether it's full or not, because those empty buses, people may depend on that bus to get where they're going. A transit system is essential to a city. It's an essential transportation infrastructure so people can get around the city. Not everybody can afford a car. It costs $9,000 a year to afford your transportation expenses with a car. If you can get places faster or more reasonably priced in a bus or light rail, then people should have that option. And as we're growing as a city, more people are going to want that option. This is the time that we have to seize the moment to invest in ourselves and in our city. We are not going to be able to build our way or pave our way out of making traffic congestion better. We can't expand Knowlesville Road where I am. You're not going to be able to expand Clarksville Pike anymore. All the congestion, there's only so many feet or miles in a road, and it's only so wide. If we fill them with one person per car, that just takes up more space. A lot more people can fit in one bus or one light rail car. Now this plan is not perfect, I'll be the first to admit that. But this plan makes use of the best tools that we have available. The legislature only gives us so many tools to be able to finance a plan. And that plan can only pay for so many miles of light rail. But this is the plan that we have before us. If you want to find something wrong with this plan, you're able to. I can as well. But you have to make the choice. Do we want to invest in Nashville? Do we want to invest in ourselves as a city? Half of this plan will be paid for by folks out of town, but we will get 100% of the benefit here in Nashville. So I encourage you to vote for the plan. It goes on the ballot on May 1, and once it is approved, there will be dozens, if not hundreds, of community meetings, public hearings on how this transit plan will be implemented according to the 55-page plan. Folks will have all kinds of input afterwards. There will be community meetings like this all over the city about what will your bus service look like, what will the light rail service look like, what will the fares look like. What will the rollout look like? Everybody will have input through your council members, through public hearings, through MTA, through the planning commission, through the mayor's office. And for mayors 30 years in the future and council members 30 years in the future. This is not the end all be all on May 1st. It is the start of investing in Nashville and having a world-class, robust, bold transit system that we need for the city we are going to be in 30 years, not just today. So, thank y'all.
There's a future resolution from Metro Council that says this revenue stream has reached its end. So let's get together and say, we no longer need this money coming in, let's close it down. I don't know any council or any legislator that's ever closed the revenue stream out voluntarily, but we got an open faucet. I'm gonna draft Brother Scott Davis. Could you tap the space bar for me on that laptop in front of you for me? I'm just gonna go through some facts so that you know what you're voting for. Make the choice. 6 things you need to know about the transit plan. Costs $9 billion. It's on us to pay for it. The notion that it's going to be paid half out of the counties, those numbers are disputable. The reason why they're disputable is because they come from the Chamber of Commerce. If I was using the Chamber's numbers, that would be great too. But understand that the Chamber is contributing to promoting this plan to primarily benefit downtown. So it's like asking the dairy farmers to give you a study that shows that cheese 3 times a day is good for you, and the study is funded by the dairy farmers. So consider that if there would be any critique that would come. When you take the U.S. Travel Association's federal numbers though, and you calculate that in, with these numbers the chambers are getting that from is from the District 5 numbers. If y'all study District 5, you know that it includes Davidson, Dixon, and parts of Cheatham. When you filter that out though, we're the only ones that are going to be paying. Not Cheatham, not Dixon. That means we have 80% of the burden. That means that each family is going to pay an average of $43,608 over the life of the plan. The tax discriminates against those who can't afford it. My mama's 89 years old. My mama likes her car. My mama's not getting on the bus. When you tell her, hey, when you get on the bus, my mama likes to drive to my house in a 10-minute back road across Thompson Lane. She's not going to get on a new bus and ride for 20 minutes to get downtown to catch a train that's going to be built 15 years from now. I would love to hope that she's around for 15 more years. But this means that your sales tax goes up, your income stays the same. For regular people, average people, for me, my wife, that's the difference when school supplies are bought between whether we're shopping at the mall, whether we're shopping at the secondhand store, or whether we're shopping at the thrift store. Those are the things that we have to keep in mind. Next, we'll have 10 years of torn up streets. Anybody drive out Murfreesboro Road and see how difficult that is. Imagine how that is with 2 lanes going each way. Now imagine the middle part of that being torn up, the inner 2 lanes being torn up, and you having single lanes going back and forth for the next 10 years. There are no exits on this plan that intersect with interstates. The transit centers have not fully been located. We don't know what's going to happen. We're being asked, just write the check and trust us on what's going to happen next from a government that at this time has to ask me for money to pay for school paper for my kids. There's some things that we need to look at. Similar rail projects have been over budget. Great presentation there, Brother Cersei, with all of the cities. Boston, about $500 million over budget, 8 years behind. Seattle, which everybody is touting, we're the next Seattle. Seattle's referendum was 3 counties, each one doing their separate referendum to pay. They've got a tunnel that's $1.5 billion. The state of Washington is paying for that. If everybody was contributing to this, I'd be down for it. But this is all on us to pay, primarily for rail. The next thing is it's going to go up to 10.25%. If you could tap that space bar, and I've only got 2 more slides, I think. Here's what we got. Our sales tax increases to 10.25%. Highest sales tax for a comparable city in the nation. We all know that the sales tax is discriminating against the poor, the elderly, those on a fixed income. Some of the people who tout this plan for the chamber, say it's $5 a month, whatever you say, that's cool for you. You know, if you're driving a nice car and you got a 30th floor office downtown, this sales tax may not bother you. But for people who are working class, who have to get around and make expenses meet every day, that's going to make them concerned. Neighborhoods torn up for a decade. And here's the biggest part. We talk about surveys of Nashville and what's important to people. We talk about education, public schools. But the two most important issues are affordable housing and traffic congestion. The price of $9 billion, $43,608, is too much to pay for a plan that doesn't address congestion. I go all over the city and talk about this. I ask a question. Is 1 cent of this $9 billion going to fix roads, bottlenecks, potholes, or improving any city streets? And the answer is crickets. That's indisputable. What people think is easing congestion is not, because what it presupposes is, it makes a huge assumption. It assumes that every one of you is ready to give up your car once you get a new bus in your neighborhood. We saw the wonderful slides that we got here that show the new bus routes. Let me go to the next slide, Brother Davis, and I'll show you this map, because this map actually this shows you where elders live, where seniors live in Davidson County. Note the purple areas. The darker the purple, the larger number of elders. We've seen a lot of glitzy money, a lot of stuff thrown in commercials talking about this is going to be so great for the elderly. I told my mom, it's going to be so great for you, Mom. She said, I'm not getting on a bus. And I did a video on my Facebook page where I actually walked the hill from Thompson Lane all the way up to my house, and it took me 15 minutes, and I was out of breath on the hill. And I showed my mom, I said, you want to walk that hill with me? She said, baby, I'm not getting on a bus. Look at and keep that in mind. And if you tap one more slide, Brother Davis, for me, I appreciate you, man. I love it when public servants put their public work in. I love it. Here's a map. This is actually on the for transit plans site. It's on their plan. I carry their plan with me. It's 55 pages. The cost is on page 50 of 55. That's a menu I wouldn't order from if I was in a restaurant. I said, order this first. Don't worry about how much it's going to cost. That's at the end. This is on page 14. If you flip through the 55-page plan, this is on page 14 of the plan. Now, the shading is not, because what you see is, all of you have a handout of this. What you see is, all of the lines and the T's and the coverage. And somebody said, well, we got T's up here. We got T's up here in Bordeaux. We got T's over out here in Donaldson. I said, no. The T, if you look on the legend in the bottom left corner of the map, the T is for proposed transit centers. The T is not the trains. The trains are the red. Areas like Germantown. Areas like Woodbine. Areas like Sylvan Park. That's where the trains are going. Trains are going to neighborhoods that are already the most rapidly gentrified neighborhoods in America. I can't afford a $750,000 two-bedroom in Germantown. This is where the trains are primarily going. Everybody else that's blue, that's increased bus service. The reason why this is important to note is because 70% of this money that Councilman Elrod and a lot of people are telling us about, we do have to do something. All of us want traffic congestion ease and better transit. 70% of the money goes into where these highlighted trains are. 70% of the money that we'll be paying goes into trains. $150 million per mile. The buses are the easiest thing to reroute. All of the wonderful new routes we saw, you can do some of those routes for a few $100,000 and save the taxpayers. The bottom line is, if you look at this in juxtaposition to this map where seniors are, where do we stand in traffic? Antioch, Blue Hole Road. Where do we stand in traffic? Clarksville Highway, West Trinity, all of these areas that don't get trains. The result of this is you come to the conclusion yourself as I close. They get the trains, we get the bus and the bill. That's not equitable in anybody's book. So we have an opportunity right now, as we take Q&A and as we go from here, we have an opportunity to say, if this is not right, we have to say to our city leaders, we have an opportunity to hit the reset button. And the way you do that is not through forums that happen afterwards. We talk about the state of Tennessee. Councilman Elrod mentioned the state of Tennessee. We are under constraints by the Improve Act, but you know what the other constraint is? This is what you vote for and this is what you get. If you change it, you have to send it back before another public referendum. Legally speaking, Professor Getz, is that pretty right? Okay, good. So this concept of, oh, just give us the money, and then we'll go back and talk about some things, that's disingenuous and is not legally correct. So I'm done with that. I want y'all to understand what we're voting for. Whether you vote for or against it, know what you're voting for. Don't just go for what the commercials say. I love the Preds. I want PK Subban to bring us a Stanley Cup. But the new commercials that are out there, I refuse to believe that the owners of the Preds and the Preds themselves are going to all of a sudden give up their cars and start riding the trains from Williamson County into downtown. Oh, there's not a train going to Williamson County, and they're not contributing to that. We need to hit the reset button so we can create a better plan that includes all of the surrounding counties, that has the state involved with it as well, and it's equitable to everybody, not just downtown. Thank you very much, and I'll be around for Q&A. Thank you.
Again, I think what everyone has articulated, before you take the test, it's just imperative that you know what's on the test.